Welcome to the Curious Conversation Collaborative, a community for purpose-seeking entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers.
Listen to inspiring conversations with your hosts, inner leadership mentor Tessa and business wealth coach Karen Ravel.
Right, and hi everyone. And this summer we're talking about aligned business or alignment in our businesses. And today we want to talk about leadership. And I think for me, like, leadership is interesting because the word leader, being a leader, it's out everywhere now, right? We're leading everything. And I think it's interesting for me because when I, came up with a title for myself, like, what do I call myself? I came up with this inner leadership mentor. And I noticed that sometimes I'm a little bit hesitant with using the word leader because for some people that really feels, they say, oh, I'm not a leader because, I don't have a team, or I don't have employees, or I don't have people I lead. I think the interesting thing is, and we'll talk a little bit about it in a minute, about the different ways or types of leadership. But for me, this is the interesting thing, that if you really look for me at leadership, it really is around taking ownership, taking responsibility. So that can also be just the leader of your own life. Or in my case, with inner leadership, it means that you take ownership for yourself instead of like thinking that everything happens to you, right? It's about becoming more aware, more conscious of what's going around. So, but at the same time, with everything that's out there, it's also that there's this connotation to leadership as being that you need to be on the soapbox or the stage, leading people to a better world or whatever. Like it's bigger there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think there's been in the past. I think the nature of leadership is changing, and what we've seen is, in the past, leadership being very much a power base. It's like a controlling sense of leadership where, and certainly again in organizations, and whether that's corporate or political or whatever, different organizations, you find that people are in control. They have the power. They are.
It's hierarchy nearly, right?
Yes,
it's like a leader is someone who's higher up.
Yeah. And, I know, gosh, when I very first started work, that was the days when jobs were for life, and you got promoted because you'd been in the job longest, yes. Whether you were capable of leading people or whatever. Whereas I think we've seen over, I don't know how long, but we've certainly seen the shift of leadership being this notion of personal power, I would say. And it's like, as you describe it, it's about taking responsibility, but it's to me, it's about understanding yourself and knowing yourself, and seeing leadership almost when you are leading others as being a privilege. Yes. That allows, that you are someone that can stand there in your own convictions, your own values, your own integrity, and that you are really a role model for others who want to follow you. And that's where it becomes a privilege, because you are in service of the people following you, yes, rather than being in control of them and telling them what to do. I think we are in a time where that old model unfortunately still exists, and we've seen some of that recently in events around the world. But those structures are falling down, and I think as we move forward in time, and like you say, like a kind of new level of consciousness, we need to see new leaders rising that are in service of the people that follow them.
And I think this is, for me, the most important thing, the two elements of that. First of all, that leading has nothing to do with telling people what to do. No. You know, it's not about trying to get people to follow you and listen to you in a way of like, I'll tell you how to live. It's actually, it's all about more empowerment, that it's, as you said, it's this role modeling, and it's this from free will, people inspiring people, really.
Yes.
And I think, to me, like, really this also this conscious leadership and this compassionate leadership is always two ways. Also always the realization that as a leader you have as much to learn. You're not better than other people. It's even like that, yes, to a degree there can be that in certain areas you're a leader out of expertise, so there's certain experience you have that others, you know, it can be like the mentoring role and all these kind of things where you can support people just going through something that you've gone through. But a leader can also be the other way around, where to be completely open that you are in collaboration with whoever you're working with, and so that it could well be that you learn a lot from the people you work with, that you're leading, if you like, that you learn from them. You have to stay open to that, and I think that's, to me, the real difference. And as you said about the old days, that in the old days, actually just the other day, it was so interesting, I had a conversation, I can't even remember what the reason was, but it came around the cultural differences, really. But it's similar to this, that in some cultures, for instance in Asia, where it's still much more that hierarchy leadership, and that they had this issue of, I hope I'm getting it right, I think it was Korea, that a plane crashed because someone who was lower saw something wrong, but would not be able to tell the leader, the management, because it's, you can't correct someone higher up. And it even led to a plane crash, you know. And I think, I mean, I'm using this example because I think some people, they're so focused of becoming a leader, and their whole focus is becoming that people should follow them, instead of that role of leading, of saying, hey, I am taking responsibility for my life, and I am embodying it, and I am living this, and I'm the experience. And that way I just show up and I leave it to people to see. And even if no one else starts following me, I'm still a leader, because it's not about get I 1 million followers, but it's about that I here in my own space create this little bit of consciousness or awareness or goodness or change or whatever it is, and then that ripple effect. And there might be times that no one sees it, no one follows it even, but that doesn't mean you're not a leader. That leader is that, like, I'm taking full responsibility here now for my little bit. And that could end up being that millions follow you, and, you know, that could be, but it might also be that it's just in your own surrounding, little things.
Yeah. And I think even, you know, last time we talked about employee versus entrepreneur sort of mindset and approach. And I think even when you go back into a kind of corporate or organizational setting, I think, you know, even there, leadership is changing and needs to continue to change, that it is much more about again, being that role model so that people can work their way up. And yes, you'll always have deadlines, and there's always a kind of a bit of a conflict, if you like. I always found this a bit of a conflict of getting things done on a certain time, and yet still trying to encourage people to grow and learn and develop. But you have to find that balance, but it is still about trying to get your team or your people to find their own path and still look to grow themselves, rather than like I say, just like it's all about discipline and power and control and telling them what to do. It's about a two-way collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that bit what we just said, like, you know, that there's really this openness, never coming, a true leader never comes from this like, oh, you have to do it my way and this is the only way, because straight away that's, I don't know, it's management, not leadership. And I don't mean that to say it's a bad thing about managers, but it's just like, if a manager can be a fantastic leader, but a leader never is a manager as such. Like,
yeah. And I think in the wider world as well, you know, if you look at like sort of political or religious groups and things like that, it's like, you know, you want leaders that you can look up to and be inspired by and choose to follow, rather than leaders who are there because of their position.
Yes.
And, you know, all right, sometimes, obviously, you know, we live in democratic countries where, you know, leaders are voted in, but you're still kind of restricted to a certain extent on choice. But obviously in some countries that leads to, you know, tyrants and dictators and that leading. So, you know, I think that, you know, we really need to, the world's changing, and we really need to find leaders who are inspiring. And there's a mentor of mine, and he works a lot in that field of inspiring leadership. And I always remember one of his quotes, might come from A Course in Miracles, I'm not sure, but it's, "We are the ones we've been waiting for." And I find that really powerful. It's like, we are the ones we've been waiting for. It's not about a position. It's about, like you said, the way we show up.
Yeah. And I think for me, what's most important to remember, because sometimes we can get so immersed in then what we see as the right path, that we think this is the only way, and we can get very rigid. And to me, like, again, true leadership is like, as a true leader, you may have incredible conviction and believing that you're on the right path, but you will never ever say this is the only way, or this is the right way, the only way, and people only are good or doing the right thing if they're following the same path. And I think, and that's the real strength. And I think it's something also, when you're on that right path, it's something to each time keep reminding you, because sometimes, I've been there and still sometimes go there, that if I really have insights and think, and I'm like, and then I want to convince people to think, this is so, you know, and to really go back again to, no, wait a minute. I can show people why I believe this is the right way and why I think this is great, but it's always that openness, and always also for me to stay open, that if someone says something else, that I don't make them wrong, but really do that inquiry. Okay, what they're saying there, is that true for me? And maybe it's not for me, but then still respecting that may be true for them. And I think that's, to me, the real strength of leadership. So I think it's exactly what you said about talking about dictators and all these kind of things, because there it goes into this, there's only one way. If you don't do this, you're wrong. It becomes also, there's no we, it's always us and them. It's like, if they're not following our thing, they need to be expelled. There's never any space for connection or mutual learning. But I also think on all levels, especially like when we're in this inspirational and coaching work, it can be very dangerous. We need to every time be mindful with ourselves, because we all get sometimes so enthusiastic that we forget to stay open, because we think, this is great, this is how it should be. So I think that's very important. And I think one last thing I would like to say, maybe you have something else to say as well still, but is this thing of, like, for anyone out there who feels they have something to share and to give, to really realize that as a leader, it doesn't have to be that you're visible everywhere. It doesn't mean, again, that you have thousands or millions of followers. It can be small. It can be one small deed or small thing you do every day just for yourself that still also affects others, so that you don't have to think that leadership means you have to be with the banner on the stage and, you know, that type of visibility. It can also really come from within in small ways.
Absolutely. And you never know the power of influence you can have on anyone else just by something you say or the way you act or whatever. But I really liked what you were saying about the openness of recognizing that even if you believe in what your values, your beliefs system, but you're still open to other people having different points of view. And gosh, Tessa, wouldn't the world be a lovely place if everyone was like that?
But I think, look, it starts with accepting and recognizing that you're not open. I've several times a day that someone says something where I'm not open to hearing that opinion, but if I'm aware of that, I can also go, okay, let's step back. Can I find that difference between the fact that I'm open to their opinion doesn't mean I have to take it on for me.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have to be, we agree to disagree, which is in a way still kind of, you know, separational. It can be really being open to go, okay, this is someone's opinion. And I don't even have to respect it. I don't have to agree. all I have to be is to open to recognize they have another opinion. Don't have to put any label on it as that is okay, it's bad, it doesn't matter. Just be open that they have that opinion.
Wow, I think this is a really interesting topic, and I'm sure other people will have their own opinions and viewpoints on that. So if you do, we would love to hear. We'd love you to ask us questions or share your own comments, and you can do that wherever you're watching this or listening to this. You can give us some feedback on this and join in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about this again. And again, we would love, because I think this is something we could actually, I'm already thinking of ways of that we could maybe create a talk sometime or something where people can share their vision for their own leadership and other leadership and leadership in the world, because I think that would be really, really interesting forum type of topic as well. But we'll see. We'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Right, well, like I said, love to hear from you, but otherwise, until next week, bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Do share your thoughts and questions in the comments or send us a message.
Do you know someone else who'd be interested in our curious conversations? Please share and spread the word. You can find out more about us at KarenRavel.com
and TessaVanKeken.com. Tune in next week for another curious conversation.